Bill Belichick seems to be a little sensitive about some things recently. He got very defensive when talking about his team being penalized.
Well, we didn't have any penalties last week offensively in Minnesota. We're one of the least penalized teams in the league defensively. We haven't had very, we had a couple of penalties in the last couple of weeks, but we've been low penalties in the kicking game this year, and I think we're one of the least penalized teams defensively this year. So. And then last week, we didn't have any offensive penalties in Minnesota. You tell me.
I don't know if those are entirely accurate statements, gentlemen. I just also don't understand why he's getting so defensive about it, Phil Perry.
Yeah, I wonder why. That's really the biggest question to me. Why approach it this way? Like, we could talk about the specifics of his answer there, but what is it about his team right now that he feels the need to answer that question that way and point out those things that he mentions there? And I don't know why, but I wonder, is he sensing some level of confidence that isn't where he would like it to be in the locker room? And so when he's at a microphone, he wants to say things in a certain way that will maybe put a buff and shine on things. That to me is the most confusing part of it, Tom, because we have heard for many, many, many years things like, well, obviously, we have to coach it and play it better, and it starts with me. And we didn't hear that here.
Yeah, and to me, the penalties go to coaching, and they go directly to decisions that Bill made, especially on the offensive line. This is a team that is second in the NFL in holding flags drawn with 21. They have 13 pre-snap penalties. The holding flags, it's interesting, actually. They've had 13 walked off against them of holds. So when they hold on 8 different occasions, the other team said, yeah, you held us, but it still didn't work out for you guys. Yeah. The number of plays the Patriots have that are negative, whether it be 0, 1, or 2-yard gains, penalties, sacks, turnovers, negative plays, 196 in the last 8 games. 196 plays in 8 games. It's absolutely mind-boggling.
That is mind-boggling.
That goes to an ineptitude from when you line up, not after the play.
I think it's so uncharacteristic, too, Andy.
Well, it was kind of characteristic last year where they had a bunch of penalties.
I suppose it's uncharacteristic to what we're used to in the old.
For the totality of the 20-plus years, yes, uncharacteristic. But the thing that I find most alarming is all we ever hear about football teams is you can't have finger pointing. You can't have a divide. I think it cost Zach Wilson his job last week because there was that the offense doesn't like him, the defense did their. Bill looks like he's pointing fingers, creating a divide, right? Like, if you're the defense, you go, we got a penalty problem in it. It's not us. It's you guys over there. Why don't you guys, hey, Isaiah Wynn, why don't you clean it up?
Piggybacking that, on your station when he was asked about the punt problem, or when he was asked about the Bills not punting, his answer was, well, we had them in punt formation last year, but we didn't do that. You going to hit that, Trent?
We have the quote. We can put it up. Keep talking about it. We can put the quote up. It's. I had them in punt formation on the first series of the game. In the second game, and gave up a fake punt. So I really wouldn't put that on the defense. But regardless, they moved the ball consistently against us. We certainly didn't make them punt in the playoff game.
Okay, so he was wrong about it. Not only that, but he was saying, well, it wasn't my defensive group and coaching staff. It was actually Cam Eacoud and the punt group that screwed up. And you were wrong. So, again, that's the finger pointing.
And the next step is obviously, so he hung Matt Patricia out to dry a couple weeks ago, or some people perceived it as that, like, they know our plays. You're right, looked like it. I saw exactly what you saw. Now we're hanging the special teams out to dry. I wouldn't put that on the defense. And then you're like, who are you not hanging out to dry? Oh, he's your son. And I don't, whether that's true or not, that is the logical next step that people look at from the outside.
And listen, I think the defense has probably been their best unit.
Sure.
I would look at that and shrug, but that game alone.
But it wasn't the other night.
Like, that game alone, exactly. That's what makes the answer so strange. You lost the game because of a penalty. So even if that was the one penalty that your team had somehow acquired all season long, in that moment, when you're asked about that, it would probably make sense for you to acknowledge that there are some shortcomings when it comes to discipline, and yet he's not going there. And so, again, this feels to me, it sounds to me, sort of like an answer from 2020 when I think he knew that it was a reset year. He actually said at one point during that season, that it was a reset year, that team probably wasn't going places. And it feels a little reminiscent of that, Tom. And I wonder why, because this team still has a chance to make the playoffs.
They had only 62 penalties in 2020, despite Cam Newton.